Health lunch.
You got to screw up there.
Yes, I'm just about to share yours.
I'm on long service leave in August. And how the advice that we give to clients. Yeah.
Have you got a replacement?
Hey,
Have you got a replacement?
been trying for the last 7-8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't been able to find someone soon.
That was my own.
So in
I
the
don't have
meantime, I did sleep.
Okay, you're okay.
And I did say, look, I'll help out every fortnight until June. So hopefully they'll find someone then. Yeah, should do that. So don't worry about that. Yeah, it's fine. But if I fail, speak later.
Keith, how old was this photo?
It was only yesterday.
I'm just going to check for those online if you can hear.
Is he going to juggle? Do you have a line? Do you have a line? Are you going to juggle?
You're the ringmaster.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm always juggling. You know that for the last 16 years, right? So I could do a dance on a table.
Oh,
Right. Table.
Okay.
just hang on 2 seconds, Kate. I'm just going. If you're online, can you please just let me know in the chat if you can hear, please? Yeah, thanks, Scott. I did give them another minute or two, Kate.
Okay, that's fine.
So do I need to give you an introduction?
If you like, the final time.
For the final time, for the very final time, until August, our next PD date.
Okay,
Until our next PD date.
this is it. This is it. We almost missed out as well too.
Yeah.
As I said, I've been on coast to coast just before Christmas, 2 months before Christmas.
Great.
All the farewells. It wasn't one final time tour. And coast to coast of lunch and just the comments from advisors as well. It's really, really, heart touching.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But 15 years at Netwealth.
15 years in Nepal, yes.
Yeah.
Last year. So got my gift, the word gift. Used to be like 5 years, you 500, 10 years, 1,000, and 15 years, 1,500. Used to CFO used to run out and buy a Visa card. This time around for 1,500, this is a work thing. The old people, it's all just about be able to claim the gift card from there. But times have changed, so it's been a remarkable journey.
I think
Is it John Connor? Will there be another? Next year or?
This is it. This is it. Like it was just incredible. Like my circuit affair was vision up too, and I was traveling around the country, and their advisors say, "Oh no, you can't go. You just with us can't get out." Then someone else say, "Oh look." Straight away, so, are you doing any consulting work? So this is genuine, all right, genuine. But yeah, look, last year it was just huge milestones for me and a granddad as well too. So got to do my sort of my job as that. And 40 years work last year, so it's not too shabby. And also last year was my 40th anniversary as well. But then when you ask my wife and say, "Oh, look, on paper it's 40 years, but I've only seen you for 30." Right? And I can't argue against that. The other 10 I obviously threw out, with the wide open. So with all those sort of milestones and with Netwealth as well, 15 years and 40 years altogether, I thought it's good time to to go on my terms. That's what it is. And people ask, "Can you not work anymore?" I said, "Oh, I could do 5 years extra if I wanted to or more, but I don't."
The Netwealth share prices.
So yeah, look, I thought I'd just go call it. I just didn't want to be wheelchaired out, So yeah, look, I'm not sure to do myself, but certainly it's good to have a choice, right? Which is good. And the last 3 or 4 weeks been good because I was just practicing, retirement. And I was sort of waking up and then thinking, oh, what am I going to do next week? You're planning ahead. Like you don't realize that even when you're not working, you're planning for next day, and then suddenly say, what am I doing? Right? I don't need to do that, which is really, really good. So, lessen the weight on the shoulders quite a lot there. So I didn't ever even realize that. But the main thing is just spending time with family and so forth. And people ask me, oh, look, is the my other half retiring at the same time? I told her one at a time. And I volunteer.
And I'll volunteer. Oh my
Well, Pete, you've certainly been a member of our family for the last 15 years. And of course, we shared a relationship before then, and that's going back quite some time ago. And, I think you have cut yourself a reputation in the profession and industry, which truly is second to none. We know on those rare occasions when there's something that just you need to check. The go-to person is Keith. Because if Keith gives us some assistance in what is usually a pretty complex technical matter, we know that our clients are receiving an absolute solid piece of advice. That's something that is going to be missed. They're big shoes for Nigel and whoever steps into them to follow. Hopefully Matt sees the importance of the role that you have delivered for these past 15 years. We'll certainly be telling him about the importance of that role. And rather than like just a bottle of wine that might disappear in one evening, we hope that this will go to some way to remembering integrity over a little while, Keith.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for everything you've done for us these past 15+ years.
Thank you very much.
Thanks heaps.
Yeah, you are.
This is in anticipation of the presentation being at the interesting.
Yeah, no. It's been great. Thanks for your kind comments, and I'm hearing that around the country. And the advisors say, "Oh, such a loss of the industry." We don't go that far, but we're just gonna miss you, right? And a couple of advisors say, "You got to write a book." So another reason why I'm sort of stretching my long service leave, there's a reason for that too, other than the advice that we normally give to clients. I started in this industry when SG was 0, right? So as we know, come 1 July, it's going to be. I just need to be able to say I did the whole journey. My hook or my crook, right? And if halfway, that takes me into July, August, and that's my So if I do write a book, either it's going to be 0 to 12%.
I don't know who wants the popcorn.
It's very good.
But it's just been incredible, and my career has been quite swiftly and concise, if you like. As I said, 40 years, 15 with Netwell, a bit more now. And I only had 5 jobs before, and each 5 years and no more. Each one is just 5 years. 5 of them, 5 is 25 plus 15 is 40. That's it. That's it. Just now it's in clean. But I've absolutely enjoyed the work that I've done together with a lot of all the advisors around the country. And I think I can, rest assured that we have helped thousands of ordinary Aussies to achieve their dreams. I don't know their names, but I'm happy just being behind, and I'm pretty sure that we have helped a lot of people. Yeah, so
True.
yeah.
Well, that's probably a good entree.
Yes,
Keith, into the last dance, I guess.
that's right.
It's,
The last dance, the final show.
yeah.
And it's appropriately titled Final Show, not just because show from me, but certainly for our clients, as a final show, in that when we look at the next 10 or 20 years, it's going to be one of the biggest transition of wealth into the next generation. So it's a final show for our clients to be able to, and for us to help them to transition them some 4 trillion. So it's a big industry, and there are heaps coming over the next 10, 20 years. So that's what this session is about. Is that a clicker that works?
Yep.
Okay. So here we go. We've got the curtains and everything. The 3 acts to it. So death, obviously, our clients will need to consider baby boomers, what the next phase looks like, and how I suppose you could take advantage of death in terms of the financial planning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So planning effective death. We're going to look at testamentary trust. Basically, that's what that is. TikTok is about obviously time is of importance, and it's really planning ahead in terms of transitioning assets in the best possible way to the kids as well, right? So I'm sure you'll be happy, to hear about maximizing the amount. So and the last, we obviously need to be mindful. Our clients do want a peaceful end, and not sort of everyone fighting over everyone else's, what am I getting and what am I not getting, right? So that sort of sums it up. So very simple framework that we want to take you through. So act number 1, planning an effective death, and it comes with obviously looking at previous generation, current generation, next generation, what we can do, and I'll start off with the testamentary trust. So as we know, we always consider as testamentary trusts, which only comes about on death, right? So as opposed to a family living trust, which, as you know, we have minors or kids in normal family trust, and we do distribute, we get caught up in those penalty rates, right? That 416 has never been indexed. Not that even if you index 416, it's pretty close to 416 anyway, right? But yeah, we don't get indexation, and anything above that is always just going to be really, really bad tax rates. So we try to avoid that. So if you do distribute from a family trust to a minor, you get hit with that. Whereas if someone dies, right, and we take advantage of a trust that results from that, then the income which is being distributed to a minor, with someone under the age of 18, will be minors, then they are considered what we call an accepted income. Accepted income are being taxed at the adult tax rate. That's what we want, is accepted income. Yeah. Other than that, you could send the kids out to work when they're 14 3/4. That's okay, because then they're not minus income, because they have part of the sweat at Macca's and KFC.
Do they have work requirements of hours, Keith, or just one hour a week?
Not at all. Yeah, you can work any hours. And obviously what we want is that if they earn their own income, then they are then given the 18,200 tax-free threshold and not being subject to this tax. So accepted income are really any income which they earn themselves, or distribution, say for example, via an estate or testamentary trust, right? So hence the planning surrounding that. Okay. Now there's been a bit of change in the past. Accountants are accountants, right? They're like us. They go to the age, and many of them sort of fall over and do things that they shouldn't be doing. And that is in the past, someone dies, you have a testamentary trust. So they then say, okay, we've got a structure called testamentary trust, so let's inject more assets into it, right? But that's not how it's supposed to work. So that's now been clarified by the ATO to make sure there's only assets that comes into a testamentary trust, which came from a deceased, from an estate, where the incomes come from those assets, that they'll be accepted income, not amounts which you inject into it, right? So that has changed, and the next slide, I'm showing you how that would have worked in the past. So if we have someone die and set up the testamentary trust for a minor, and originally was 100,000 from the deceased estate, Then on top of that, you might have a family trust that say, oh, this is a great idea. We speak to an accountant and say we inject $1 million into it, making it a total of 1.1 million, and trying to use that structure when it came about as a result of death. Then under the old rules, and if that 1.1 produced $27,500 income, under the old rules, that it's not old rules, but it's just that the practice of accountants, and it was never sort of picked up before. And then the tax office comes along and says, well, the idea of this rule is just to make sure that it is attributable to estate or deceased estate's assets. Then under the old rules, the whole 27,500 would have been taxed at the adult tax-free tax rate. And you can see the tax is $1,400, which is good, right? But under the new amended rules, then what the ATO will then now require is for you to apportion it to say that for $1 million that didn't come from the estate, a portion over a total of 1.1, then you can see that only 100,000 or the earnings from 100,000 is accepted income, which if you proportion it in that way, is 2,500, right? Which is obviously tax-free because it's under the tax-free threshold, but the rest will be at the minus tax rate. So, which is not good. Yeah. So no longer that the accountants are able to do so. So if you do come across one where they're still doing it, then they'll be caught under the set rules. Yep, that's a no-no. Right.
So you can actually still add the assets if you really wanted to, but it makes things a bit murky and
it's not murky. Certainly it's sort of, I guess you're doing it until you're caught, right? So
oh no, I mean like you can add the assets but not claim the
of course, but you wouldn't do that, right? But you wouldn't distribute to a minor, right?
No.
Because you're gonna pay the top tax rate.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't even test it out at all, right? Now that we do know the rules. Now, in terms of super benefit, we know these all sets of rules. We know that, we can roll over now. We can start a death benefit if we want to leave it into super. And we know that it's only for dependents that, if the dependents, which really includes a spouse or child, then we can start a death benefit income stream, right? But when we do that, then it counts against the transfer balance cap, right? So remember the next year, 1st of July, we should be going up to $2 million. Yeah, 2 million. But the other 30,000, I don't think we had enough to increase that. But the 2 million, which is really the TBC for the purpose of retirement income stream commencement of TBA, and also the $2 million for your NCC, that should go up 1 July. Yeah, but the CC and the NCC should remain the same for the time being. And as we know, look, with that benefit income stream, it's the only way we can leave it in super. And certainly if tax-wise is effective because it's either 0% tax, that benefit pension, or of course we can't have that benefit in accumulation, which would have been taxed at 15%. So the only way is really as that benefit pension, which is very effective, 0% tax. But on top of that, let's not forget that when it's being paid out, unless someone, one of either the deceased or the remaining beneficiary, which could be the spouse or the child. So long as the deceased is over 60, then you'll be tax-free. If not, obviously it will be taxable to the portion of whatever is taxable, and with a 15% rebate, right? So that's just a quick summary of obviously still good to be in the super system as a result of that. The next question then is really to think about the child pension, and if we have not considered this for our younger clients, we should. Certainly, if you would have many clients where they might be in their 30s, in their 40s, where they might have a significant or at least $1 million or $2 million insurance cover, and they might have a young family as well too. A child pension is always worth considering, right? As opposed to a testamentary trust, yeah. So last year I ran a similar session to this in Hobart, Tasmania, for the estate planning specialist lawyers. Many of the lawyers had not heard about child pension, right? Incredible, right? So,
One that you got at the moment. That we're doing.
yeah, so it's quite incredible that they had no idea, pushing everyone towards that monetary trust. Okay, so and I was presenting on behalf of a financial planner, right? So in the end, I said, look, you could have done it yourself, right? These are just a bunch of estate planning lawyers. Don't worry about it. But what would they know about financial planning?
It is actually surprising how little they know.
Yeah, yeah. You know, this is where our expertise is, right? So of course, don't let them drag us into how to draft a will and all this boring stuff, right? Yeah, but we got to bring them back into the financial planning, and I always believe, when we put a will together, we got to start online, right? Give them a framework, all right. Just the other day, I was doing my own sort of will and all that stuff, right? Putting all this in place. You should do, like, you can't preach to people and not. So I used a lawyer, which was recommended by one of our advisors. So you got to get some benefit from the advisors. And yeah, look, I said, this is what I want, right? And they sent a few drafts, like half a dozen drafts. And they say, you are one who is most comprehensive. Peter, how do you do all this stuff? Okay, but don't worry about that stuff. So yeah, look, you know, they're quite open, and you know, and we should direct them, right? Of course, we're not good at drafting the will and what have you. We need them, but it's just the framework. Yeah.
Or ChatGPT.
Yeah. So the lawyer actually said, oh, I actually enjoyed it, right? So yeah, I really enjoyed working together on it, right? And it's good for both sides as well. So let's do that, right? And in fact, when I was doing that conference, at the end of it, you know, there was about 2 or 3 young lawyers up there in their early 40s and with kids and stuff, and came to me and said, how do we do one of this? So I said, come to network. Right, it's just true, right? You know, and I've got financial planner, obviously. So 2 of them are represented sitting there, right? So, but yeah, so they had no idea what the child pension is. All right, so let's really you know, share and do it together with lawyers. We're not competing against them, and I've been saying, look. One of the things which when I came into this industry was I saw the industry being so fragmented in terms of working with advisors and lawyers as well too. It's improved somewhat, but we're still not quite there. We're still not quite there. Because we are professional, we are expertise in our own area, right? I mean, if you preach this to accountants, they would have problems too. Yeah. So we have our own expertise stuff. They've got their accounting boring standards, you know, all that stuff, like, you know, and they're good at that. That's okay. Yeah. So it's just together that we're going to make sure that we work together to make sure that how it benefits the clients is really what we should be achieving. So in child pension, a number of things, as you know. One main thing is, if you want child pension, you must have a binding nomination. All right. And that's not binding nomination 100% to the spouse, and not binding nomination to the LPR. You're done, right? If you have a binding nomination to the estate, let's say, we are done with that benefit pension. Not for the spouse, not for the kids. It's gone out of the system, right? So that's critical. And then if you do want a mixture of spouse, then benefit pension, and child, then we got to nominate the amount that we want to do for each one of them.
A percentage or?
Percentage or dollars, whichever way.
Yeah, you don't ever hear an estate planning lawyers ever recommend that.
Yeah. So I think it's because if you think about young family, you know, 40 years old, right? A couple of $1 million, you know, one per spouse passed away. The $2 million, yes, you could all pay to the spouse. That's okay. But let's say they had insurance cover in it and it's in super, then the most effective place, it is in super. And remember the $2 million, even if you pay to the spouse, we can't keep the $2 million, right? Well, 1.9, okay? But you're actually using up the whole 1.9 as well too. But on the other hand, if we have 600,000 to the kids, right? Two kids, 1.2, then of course you're using the child's transfer balance cap as well.
Yeah.
So it's saving the spouse on TBC for the future. Yeah. So that would be another reason why you're doing that. And on the tax side as well, even if you do 1.9, and both of them are under 60, and let's say they're all likely all taxable, isn't it? Right? So 1.9 and it's got 4%. You pick up even 4% of that.
Well, yeah. No,
Like some Soviet.
Yep.
I have you anywhere, man.
no.
So remember, not just the transfer balance cap, which is a problem, but when you, let's say if you pick up $100,000 pension from that account balance, then it's all taxable to the spouse, right? And that gets added on to the normal 18,200 and so forth. Whereas if we were to spread out 100,000 between three of them, remember child pension also get the adult tax-free threshold. So if you do 3 ways of 100,000, 3 different child pension and normal account-based pension, the likelihood is all going to be tax-free because there are 3 of them. Yeah. Plus as well, you need to bring up the kids anyway for 600,000 for one child, right? They'll probably gone in 5 years, right? Anyway, yeah. So, but of course, one of the issue is that at age 18, they could commute. So you're not going to give whole 1.9 million to the child.
Yeah, I was going to say that in Oxford, there's no control mechanism.
There isn't, yeah. So until 18, so that's why I always say KYC, right? Know your child, right? If it's one of those,
I don't know.
really. No, that's true, right? So just enough, right, to bring them to age 18. And if they're one of those, you commute just a day before.
So okay, if they're 18 and they're still financially dependent, then they're allowed to get the
25.
child pension until 25.
25. Yeah.
But as an example, if they were 18 and already, if they were about to turn 18 and already on the child pension, you can't extend to 25 if you're financially dependent on another person, like the partner or the.
No. So if they're under 18, they're always independent, right? So you
Yeah.
can always start a child pension.
But you can't extend to 25 is what I'm saying.
No, it goes on to 25.
It goes on, if as long as they remain and continue to be
Financially dependent on a parent.
for example, as tertiary, going to
Yeah.
tertiary.
No, yeah, no.
It has to meet cis regs to be taxed.
It's tax dependent.
To be eligible to maintain it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, child pension is very good in that sense, because we're spreading the TBC and we're spreading the income, with 2 or 3 of them, right, including the spouse.
In practice, are there many of these?
You're seeing a few more,
Yeah.
definitely, but just people are not aware of it,
Yeah.
and obviously not too many. Fingers crossed that die at 40 with a couple of kids, not too many, but
I did one 15 or 20 years ago.
Really? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It was a very small one.
Yeah.
There were reasons, but it was good.
yeah.
I guess if it's
Obviously,
like a terminal illness or something like that, Kate, that's where it really like
Even more-
it's not even been at the forefront of your.
Yeah, she had
until
it.
it's maybe like a
But you
terminal
have to-
diagnosis and
More so, yeah.
planning arrangements.
Yeah, I did one with advisor 50, 51, 50, 50, 51. They're still sort of teenagers, right? They're still 14, 16 at that age. And the advisor didn't think about the child pension, right? Was thinking more along the lines of terminal illness. We pull it out, we put it back in, right, and all that. And in the meantime, the spouse has got her own, pretty close to 1.92 already. So we're trying to preserve her TBC, yeah. So we were doing more of the recontribution to get it in and tax-free and all that stuff. But the advisor didn't think about the child pension until we bring it up. And they were once they got a hang of this, they're very focused about it. And they just say, oh, this is good. And we want to give them 600, but that is to include like 200 when they come to age 25. It's a lump sum to them. right? So you can extend that sort of thinking, right? To sort of bring them up to that age, and then 200,000 for them as a deposit for a house or whatever you want to be. Yeah. So once they get a whiff of that, then they say, oh look, this is what we can plan. And that's all financial planning is all about, is that really keep it in an effective place, safe, accessible. Remember, lump sums can be taken as well, tax-free. Yeah. But obviously the condition is a 4% that you need to pull out each year. And then anything more is lump sums, and you can leave an amount for to buy a car or deposit as well. So that worked really, really well for that clients, and it's been about 18 months now and still well in line, which is good, right? So, but yeah, it's all ready to go as well too. Yeah, and remember too, terminal illness cannot be rolled over. Yeah. Yeah, because if you roll over terminal illness, once it's been designated terminal illness, you roll over is NCC. Yeah, so just be careful with that one there, right? The moment you roll over is NCC. So if you want to roll over and it's going to be a terminal illness, make sure it's roll over first. So if that's the case, if we cannot roll over, so normally what we would have to just leave the person to die in that fund, right? Because once the disease situation occurs, you can have a death benefit pension, which can then be rolled over. Yeah. So we can work around that.
Sorry, question to a point that you made earlier. Up to the age of 18, we can keep the child pension in pool 25, sorry.
Yep.
But let's just say the surviving spouse, literally the day before, you said comment that they can
Commute. Because they're the guardian.
They're the
At
guardian.
18, yeah. I mean, they can still commute all the way
All
through.
the way through.
Yeah. But it's just that the child can commute. If they knew about this, they could come.
Right.
Between 18 and 20.
25.
Yeah, after 18.
To 18.
Yeah.
Regardless if they're a financial.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So I don't think I've come across any problems with those ones, but new generation, who knows, right? So okay. So we're just
But it's a proxy for a testamentary trust. There's better tax benefits.
Up until
It's almost been up to 18. And the money's likely to be going into the surviving spouse's bank account, because a minor is unlikely to be able to
Pay for school costs, food.
exactly manage the funds. So the bank account that it goes into.
Yeah.
Would be
It's great.
in the one we're thinking of would be Mum's bank accounts.
Yeah.
Right.
But in terms of thinking about whether you got testamentary trust or child pension, remember they are both accepted income for the minor. So main thing is adult tax-free threshold, right? Remember that with pension, it's tax-free earnings.
Yeah.
Right? Testamentary trust is you have to distribute the earnings. All right. So in fact, the higher the earnings, the more that you should be thinking about child pension.
Yeah.
Agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we don't testamentary trust. Hey?
Not too much money.
Yeah. So if your earnings is going to be high, then the child pension is going to be better because it's tax free. Whereas with a testament trust, you must distribute, right? So if you're working on a basis like financial planners always provide 20% return at least every year. So that one definitely put in the child pension, right? Because it's tax free, whereas you got to distribute that one.
Yeah, but the first 20 something's tax free anyway, isn't it? Through the testamentary trust.
Oh, yeah, but
The-
the earnings internally, so you're not paying capital gains tax on anything.
On anything.
On the testamentary trust, you're gonna wash it out regardless.
wash it out. Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
capital growth
Yeah.
would be significant
Yeah.
if it's a 10-year.
That's right. So it's just a balance between those two. The other thing as well you need to think about is when with a pension, as you pay out, we only tax on taxables, right?
Yeah.
But for a young family,
Yeah.
obviously, it's highly all taxable,
Yeah.
but it comes with a 15% rebate
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So that bit helps as well. Whereas testament trust, there's no rebate at all.
And also the administration ease and tax returns and stuff. Yeah.
Session that's going to be done.
True.
Sorry.
Yep.
So with the current tax rates, Keith, what's the effect of that 15% rebate? Now, like, is it about 50 grand that you take out tax free, or what is it? Would it be 40 something, wouldn't it?
If it was all taxable, you mean?
If it was all,
If it's
because
more taxable.
you've got 18,000.
Yes, that's a lot.
I think only percent of Medicare up to 45.
Yeah.
Commonwealth should live down.
What's the next week? It's 19%, right? 19% is still 45, I think.
No, it's 16% now.
Yeah.
16, sorry, 16, yeah. See, the last month.
You have a month's not bad.
So it's 40 odd grand, right?
45.
45 grand you get tax free, you know, out of the child pension
But
fund.
you've used up their,
Which is plenty, which is
Yeah,
plenty.
You're
you've
saying,
used up their TBC, haven't you? Oh,
That's on.
Yeah, you think lump sum tax free?
What's that thing for?
No,
Yeah,
because you're going to do a 4%.
yes.
You would go on.
And
It doesn't matter what, if you don't need to take out 50 as a pension, because you take the rest
that's right.
anyway.
So what we're saying here is 4% up to 45,000. Yeah. Anything above that, we got take lump. Anything above 4% you need, we always lump sum, right? But your 4% is really the optimum is the max is really up to 45,000.
Yeah.
Whatever you do to reverse.
Three kids, easy.
Yeah. So that's plenty. Yeah.
So a mil, like roughly, 900 mil is the minimum pension. About.
Yeah. So you can see it works really, really well, right? Tax free inside, tax free being paid out, right? That's really what we're after.
Yeah.
Would the lawyers know about this or think about this? No.
No, because they've got to get their fees. Testamentary trust come nice and expensive.
If someone's doing it at the moment, has not even been brought up.
Yeah.
Even cost wise too, a child pension and never be cheaper than testament trust, won't it? Yeah, it should be. Especially family and
There's no tax returns, like you're not doing all of that ongoing
yeah,
stuff with accountants and obligations with trustees and everything like that. It's-
Peace of mind perspective, I know like my wife would be, even though she is an accountant, she would be absolutely shocking at doing tax returns or even thinking about getting tax returns done.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's the hassle, right? You'd say, well, it's, I don't have to pay for it, it's done. So you're all linked.
It's most painful when you do your own tax return. I mean, you're earning a living that you don't mind, right? You know, the whole work then. Yeah, you don't mind, but your own one, like, God, you may got to pay as well at the end of it. Like, what's this? I work on this and I have to pay. So look, in summing up, testamentary trust, I guess if we had old rules, but we could inject more money in and use that structure, yes, it's probably very good back then, right? It's still a structure I would recommend, right? For sure. Especially big estates where we will utilize 1.9, you know, in all different ways. We've exhausted all that. And all really I want is for us to think, you know, across fairly all the different issues, as opposed to being, you know, driven into testamentary trust.
Particularly where you want to still have the leverage of control, you know?
Yeah.
Kids develop all sorts of issues, you know, like all. Could be drugs, could be, you know, it could be anything, and whatever. Exercise, like, just get.
Yeah. So yeah, look, I'm still open to both, and the main thing is just getting lawyers to consider this, right, and not just blindly everything driven into testamentary trust. Really message, yeah. So, and the lawyers down there in Hobart, you know, couldn't agree more. So.
And the more that we have 12% SGC, the more super balance we're going to have. So the more child pension.
Yeah, should be thinking. Okay, let's move on to act number 2, TikTok. Okay. This is passing assets to the next generation. We are one of the few OECD countries without death tax.
Well.
The media.
You say some more, say some other.
Tax, which is inheritance tax from where?
Yeah, in a way, but obviously we can get around that, right? A lot easier than others. I said life support machine always useful, right? So it's not true. Okay.
Pre-filled.
So this one here, is really thinking about the bottom line as we pass the assets on to the next generation. And one important rule is there's no sale, no tax, right? Debt is okay.
Yeah.
But as long as you don't dispose of the asset, there's no tax. So that can be passed on. It's not a CGT event, yeah? Unless one important point is passed on to non-resident, we have to watch out for those ones. So the kids live these days in London, Paris, New York, right? So don't forget, don't give those overseas, set them right, it's not big here, and passing them assets with huge capital. Here we're talking about capital gains accrued, right, which we haven't realized. So we pass on the non-resident, it will crystallize. And that's simply because the ATO thinks that if it goes off to New York, they won't see that dollar. And hence they want to make sure that, they take that cut before it's transferred to someone in the States. So make sure you leave cash for those ones. And obviously pass on, the CBA shares, cost base 540, to someone who lives in Mildura, right? So that's not good. Nothing wrong with Mildura. 12 months modified. Remember, if someone bought in the last sort of 6 months, and obviously then die on you wait for another 6 months to sell it, then you do have the 12 months as well included in there. Yeah. So the discount, that's what there is. Pre-CGT, unfortunately, that is not very friendly for pre-CGT because the pre-CGT will go the moment that happens. So at some point in time, we will no longer have any pre-CGT assets. Okay. Because everyone and had assets back then. Back in 85, died. That's the end of the pre-CGT. Okay. Post-CGT is okay, you acquire the cost base and what have you. Main residence, a couple of rules, you got to sell within 2 years, right? Watch out for those ones who are non-residents as well. So it's just unfortunate that if someone even own the house all the time, but they move overseas and die, you will not get the CGT principal residence exemption.
So transferring assets.
Yeah, so careful with that one there. That's just unfortunate. They should have at least an option, but they're not doing that. Yeah, so that's all. If it's otherwise main residence, make sure it's sold within the 2-year period. Yeah. Sharing and preserving losses. Remember that if someone sells and realizes loss, then if someone dies, the loss dies with the person. Okay, so if your client's got an asset which is lost, unrealized, then it's better to leave it unrealized, right? Unless you can use the loss and crystallize it. Because if you die with a loss, the loss can never be used, right? Unless again on deathbed you press sell the profit portfolio to obviously use the loss.
First thought on the deathbed.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but yeah. It is some people's like only thoughts and when they're on there.
Sell.
Or just they don't want to pay tax, they want to maximize everything, right?
Yeah.
My parents used it for their will. So if one of them is incapacitated for a period, like it effectively it snap sells everything within the 30 days that they're incapacitated prior to deceasement and then getting switched off, basically, to avoid bits and pieces like this.
Mm.
Show you how my car my parents went on their estate planning.
So yeah, we need to think about losses and how we use it, right? So if someone has got loss, you might want to realize some of the profitable assets. And actually, use up the loss. So, and what you're doing is you're resetting the cost base.
That's why it will be on platform. Then
You're not talking about crystallized losses, aren't you?
Yeah, if we talk about crystallized losses, then we should crystallize profit, right, on other assets just to use them up. But of course, you can, as you say, with net wealth, right? Yeah, where the losses save all this trouble, right? And sell it, and we'll pay you the credit anyway. Yeah, so that's easier. Yeah. For those of you, determined to do your own, then this is what they need to do, right? With the accountants, especially. Then obviously, if they do have unrealized loss, you might want to die with that and then passing on to someone who can actually, or one of the kids that can use that against their profit, right? So that's why I think in a will, it's good to have it, make it flexible in terms of allowing the executor to be able to, in conjunction with financial planners, I guess as well too, say which assets, right? As long as you equalize, right? So long as everyone gets, half a million each, and then the assets is free for the executor to say, you take this, you take that, as long as, you can be trusted to do so. And, that overall would be a better position, right? So you want the will to be able to be flexible in that manner as well too. Yeah.
Flexibility.
Flexibility. That's right. So that's when we need the lawyers to say, that's what we want to do. We want the executor to have this power, as much as we're giving $500,000 equally each, but we want the executive to be able to say or to discuss and say which assets go to, right? So those things I think is useful to have a discussion with the lawyers. One of the ways to crystallize assets is, for example, just unwinding joint tenants. You know that when it's a joint tenant, like you and your partner owns an asset together, then you say, oh, look, I know you long enough now, 40 years, right? I'm happy for you to have my half of it. I'll just off-market transfer to her. I've got a problem, right? Because I will crystallize my part of it. Even though together, it's still mine, ours, that crystallizes it. And it could be good or bad, right? If you do it and you didn't know what you were doing it for, just because, I love this person more than I did before. Therefore, I just want 100% that she owns it. Then obviously not a good reason, right? And therefore you crystallize the profit, right? When you're still owning the same thing. Whereas if I've got a loss and I say, look, you can have mine, but I love you so much, but that is my loss, right? Yeah. So off-market transfer might have, then it's okay. Yeah. So that's something which we need to consider. And it is a concept when you think about tax, right? Is when you have an asset like a BHP share, one share, right? And two of you owning it, but for tax purposes, you are like owning half of each, right? So that's how the tax law treats it. And therefore, if you look at the right-hand side where if Betty owns 50%, of it doesn't change because on transfer from John to Betty, Betty's position doesn't change, but now Betty has got two cost bases, even though it's one share. And that's basically 50% of the original cost and 50% of the market value when it was transferred to her. So I'm never sure how our system does it. It's a very hard concept, when you think about it, right? So I didn't dare to ask to see how we do it, but I assume we can do it, right? But you can ask them. That's a hard question, right?
So Nigel, man.
It's more to it than that. It's obviously the system, right? It should account for it because it's joint, right? When it's joint, then it should be half, right? One share is half each. Right? Not 10 shares, 5 each. Doesn't work the way. So we got, if there are 10 shares, you got 50% each of each one of them. Right. That makes it hard. Right. Just don't know how the system can do it, but yeah, it must do it. So okay.
I was going to say with this, with properties with joint tenants to tenants in common,
Yeah.
you can help get, so they got a beach house.
Yeah.
One passes away, tenants in common, you can get assets out of that name for Centrelink and Edgecare.
Yeah. So tenants in common is you own a specific portion and doesn't need to be 50-50, right? So joint, you don't have a choice. It's 50-50, okay, right? So can you have a joint with more than two? Yeah, you can, right? So if the three of them is 130. And the only thing is, if one of them passes away, it drops to 50-50. Yeah. So that's why you buy a property jointly with a friend.
No.
Best friend?
Right.
No, true, okay. Then, because it just passes on to the other person, right? Doesn't even go through the estate. So the only way you're gonna be able to do it is through unit trusts, right? Or tenants in common.
Yeah, but yeah, so we've done like some clients where you move from, so they got the beach house, you move from joint names to tenants in common. And then if one passes away, they can give that half of the beach house to the kids. And then for Centrelink and aged care,
Yep.
it's not gifted, it's
And there's.
and then their assets.
That's right.
Their assets being
Yep.
used for Centrelink and pension.
Yep.
Aged care.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
joint to
Yeah.
50-50 tenants.
And then the kids are gonna get the beach house anyway.
Yep.
It's like gonna be,
Yeah,
and so then they
Yeah.
use the.
but when you are joint and you try to split it, there could be implications for tax as well too.
Not if it goes 50-50.
No, 50/50.
But there's no
There's no change in
Yeah.
ownership.
Yeah.
So there's no change.
But if you try to do 70-30
There's guarantee.
tax.
Mm.
Yeah, so-
Well, that's what we've done. It's been okay previously.
It's okay till you get caught.
Well, still 50-50.
That's
right?
50/50, that's.
So you haven't changed the.
Which I've just got a feeling it's not. But then again, I've been out of this for 4 weeks. So.
Don't worry.
But next time you do
We
it,
learned a lot in 4 weeks, Peter.
So there's an estate planning lawyer that I do a bit of work with, and she always likes to, the principal place of residence, go from joint tenants to tenants in common. And put like 50% share in a testamentary trust or something to protect the kids from a future spouse. And I don't know, I'm just not sure about, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, if you put it in a trust that protects the
Yeah,
potential protection for divorce
Yeah.
in future, I'm okay with that. But they're going from joint to tenants in common.
Yeah.
Between husband and wife.
between husband
And
or
wife.
principal place of residence.
Yeah.
Trust.
I mean, one way is the.
And then through
Centrelink
through the
way.
estate, like 50% of the PPR goes to a testamentary trust for the kids.
So they set up the tenants in common prior to passing,
Right.
and then
Yep.
they the
yeah.
deceased
Yeah.
the deceased partner.
So it has a life interest in it.
Yeah.
It has a life interest in the property, and then, you know, her kind of,
So now a minimum of 50% of the property
yeah,
is protected against any
Future.
potential matrimonial
yeah.
So don't lose it.
amongst the children.
And then the other 50, but that 50% also has CGT implications.
Yeah.
And the surviving spouse, wouldn't the surviving spouse just do the testamentary trust?
But talking to lawyers, if kids are involved with those 4 kids, that goes through the family court.
Yeah.
And if they can't agree, the judge, whilst they can't say, well, okay, you get a share of that amount that's in the trust, I'm going to take that into consideration, that your ex has got that.
Yeah.
So they can apportion a larger amount,
Even though it's, yeah,
even though it's in there.
Yeah.
You know?
yes, that's not foolproof.
No.
You're gonna do
Oh,
that.
it's never foolproof.
No.
But
You're gonna do that.
obviously,
Extra fees
You're
for
gonna
November.
do that. in your-
Well, I just wonder if she's putting on.
For a while, it's going
Yeah,
to
the-
the dying spouse's name,
Yeah.
and then go testamentary trust on the whole lot. So if you knew you were gonna die and you're getting your house in order, you'd love an affection transfer to the dying spouse. Then the whole thing would be in testamentary trust.
and I think the other problem too is the CGT. I think that you should mention that.
No
So,
CGT, that was transfer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's missing out on
That way it's right.
potential exemption.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, not, yeah,
Yeah, I know,
She's looking at risk, she's
Yes.
not looking at tax.
correct.
right.
And risk.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah.
It might be in a narrow situation, maybe,
Yeah,
but yeah, look. No.
Only something that was like,
What
they
they're fooling.
the surviving. So you couldn't just have it be go to their testamentary trust. Like you've got husband and wife.
and also saying, say your spouse,
The intended
this goes on and has another.
Another kind
Kind of protecting it for your life.
Okay, sorry.
So I think that the likelihood is.
I'll leave it Nikki's partners. No, they're.
I've been told that this is, you know.
Read now.
So that-
It's a relationship.
Yes, yeah,
And there's only half of the property that is exposed.
Yeah.
If the survivor, gets involved with another relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It seems like that, yeah, you just do the whole thing.
I know.
beforehand, right?
if this happens.
Oh,
you know,
Yeah, pass it on to the kids straight away and still provide the life interest though.
yeah.
But does tenants in common actually stand up in family court? So if they split, so if the partners then
Oh, prior.
split
Oh, that's,
rather than die,
no.
That's people are like, not if the people are separating the two that own 100% of the property still, because it's still both their assets. Like if you have 70% and they have 30.
Yeah.
so if we have a couple where they one of them has a deceased partner and gets inheritance, etc., then later on repartners, goes in as tenants in common into a home.
Any
and
asset
sets
they
out-
own would all be put in the pool.
Yeah,
But it's not, the pool's not evenly divided. The
it's
pool-
not.
No, it's not.
Well,
It's
yeah.
evenly collected.
You also have to consider
Everyone's assets in the pool.
want to be the controller, the controlling person of the trust. Like quite often you don't want the beneficiary to also be the controlling person of the trust, because then they've got full control of what they can receive. Whereas if you've got someone else that has the discretion of what's able to be paid out and things like that, then they can say, well, it's against the rules of the trust. So I
It's
don't want-
very.
If you can't agree, Caroline, coming back to your original question, if you can't agree, the judge looks at two things, the needs and contributions factors.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the discussions around those points.
It's very.
If you can't fully protect anyway, you can reduce the risk, right? Reduce the impact.
Mm.
Okay, on. This is an interesting one for those SMSFs. This is like almost anti-judgment all over, right? So this is where, and it runs well in SMSF. It wouldn't work with Network, right? So impartial. So I'm from SMSF. So this is the one where if your client has got insurance cover in SMSF, and as a result, could be death, could be terminal illness, could be TBD. And instead of claiming the insurance premium for the year of death, we claim instead the deduction for the benefit being paid out. Right. So as you can see, the insurance premium might be only $2,000 or $5,000, but the payout could be $2 million. You'd rather have that loss then. Yeah. But a couple of things that needs to be in place. Obviously, you need insurance to be in place, and then you elect for it not to claim, and it's irrevocable for fun. That's why it doesn't work with netball. I could not just claim for your clients, and then everyone else don't get.
It's the fund level, yeah.
Yeah. So at a fund level, yeah.
And it's the first time, isn't it? Is it the first time? So like if there was another person in the SMSF, they got an insurance payout, like that can that be claimed as a loss for future as well? Or
So it's a whole fund, and it's that particular point.
the first point, right?
That's
Like
right,
if
yeah.
there was a few, like if there were 4 members of the fund,
Yeah.
first one that goes,
Everyone else would.
that's the loss.
That's it.
The second one that goes, you can't add that to the loss.
It's like an insurance.
If they have insurance, yeah,
Can we add it to the loss as well?
yeah, you can,
They
yeah.
weren't claiming the premiums, obviously, along.
That's right, yeah, that's it.
Once the loss is triggered,
Yeah,
can you add new members to take advantage of it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's all. Yeah,
You can buy the funds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
is there still a market for
If they
that?
are available.
Yeah, yeah, that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
Never
Yeah.
pays tax in super.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like if someone has a $2 million payout, you can go 6 members go in or whatever, and never pay tax on your super.
and that's the whole point. Otherwise,
Insurance club doing that now, going
Yeah.
buying the policies when people can't afford them and then.
They still.
So this only happens in a self-managed super fund. It can't happen.
Yeah, but what if you had an insurance policy that was in the super fund? Could they take over maybe? Like if it was getting expensive, I wonder whether they could take over and it's still owned by the
I extend.
folks, or do they actually?
They changed the ownership, surely. They changed the ownership of the policy, but keep the life
Yeah,
insurance.
they
take
take
over.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they want the process.
It's a separate contract. You sign up a contract to them,
No, I know how it works, but yeah.
but they are.
It has to come out of the super.
Change the policy ownership.
Yeah.
one of the conditions is it must be payment in consequence of termination of employment, right? So that's important as well. So we really need someone to be employed. And then as a result of one of those conditions, and you stop claiming the insurance premium. And then if it's SMSF with 6 members, no one else can claim in the future. But obviously, you make it up by the loss, right? So all the time, you claim the deduction until the year of death of one of them. Then you claim this, and no one else after that could ever claim.
But they have to be employed as well as having.
That person must be employed. So it must be payment in consequence of termination of employment.
What's deemed employed?
Actually salaried employed. I couldn't see anything which says self-employed. So I'm just taking
Do you
it.
need and more what I was going back to, is it like work test related, like you need to meet a certain amount of hours or?
No.
Or is it your?
It's just
kind of
casual,
Yeah.
You got something and then it stops.
Yeah, nothing at all.
Doesn't define it.
Yeah.
It just.
They find it's just termination of employment. So someone working maybe 2 or 3 days part-time, right? And insurance, and as a result of these, right, they had to stop the work, right? And therefore, so that would fit.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we look at that, then why do we need all these losses? Remember, when we manage super, is we're managing really the tax inside, right? Because you're an accumulation, and then obviously tax when it's being paid out, right? So those are the 2 things with super that we manage. In terms of how much loss we can claim, you look at the formula, it talks about how much we pay out. So it's the payout number, so which includes insured amount, right? So if it's a $2 million payout, which includes insurance, it's based on that $2 million. And if you look at the formula there, which is the future service days, there are total service days, that looks familiar, right? That looks like the one for TPD. Yeah. So therefore, that one is saying is the younger the person is, then the higher the loss that you claim, right? So once you hit 65, it's no use anymore, right? So it's really as young as possible to age 65. It's really giving you the highest amount of loss there. And what can we do with the losses? Remember, when you have a capital loss in a fund, it's only offset against capital gains. But these are normal losses which can hit against everything. Earnings, capital gains, contributions. That's the main one. Contributions, right? So in sort of validating your point, one dies, and if that's the only person, single member, there's no use, right? So we've got to import another 6 members, and they would absorb all the losses too, right? So you could tell, kids, here's your inheritance, SMSF, nothing in it, but with losses, right? Never know if I good one.
It's still pretty.
15% or 12% of your lifetime peak, not bad.
Just quickly, what's the trigger point for it? So they've got an insurance payout
They got an
Terminated.
payout.
In the self-managed.
and they've terminated their salary employment.
Any salaried employment, right? So
Any
you got 2 jobs and you do 1 day a week somewhere and stop
Well,
that.
I suppose if you're dead, then
Oh, yeah. If you-
Oh, if it's like.
You terminate.
It counts for
So you're gonna be not working anyway.
yeah, you won't be working anyway. So I think it should be quite.
Yeah, I think that condition's pretty.
They're the ones Trump's trying to find. They're still getting paid and not alive.
All right, just a couple of scenarios to put it in perspective. So we got someone died on 40th birthday. Be careful, 40th, party too much. So 290 balance, life cover is the main one. That's what you're after, 2 million cover. And it might be only $2,000, $3,000 in premium, right? So a total debt payout 2.29, right? Eligible service period is 5, and years to 65 is 25 years. So when you do the calculation based on 2.29 payout, you got $1.9 million of losses at the expense of losing what, 400,000 premiums. I think we can live with that, yeah. So 1.9, and in terms of utilizing it, and of course we're going to roll over 1.9. Good place that well to start a debt benefit income stream. Then of course you will not start it in the SMSF, you see, because all this segregation, so that's why you want to move it right into the platform network. And the remaining amount, because we need to pull out the money because of 1.9, and we're exceeding that amount, we're going to put the whole 390 back again. And assuming that we make and CC if we are able to, because remember, even though we got 1.9 now, but remember we always based on the previous 30th June balance. Yeah. So I'm assuming that we are okay to make the 360. And on top of that, the additional 30, we could use a CC and we put it back in. And in doing so,
Yeah, because the contributions tax gets
Yeah,
knocked off by the.
and in doing so, we've got capital gains on the lump sum. I'm just assuming that number. And we are also having some accessible income in the fund, and we offset everything. And you say there's no tax payable, and we use 70,000 of the 1.9.
And then you get a $30,000 tax deduction for life without paying contributions to that tax.
We're gonna miss you, Keith.
Yeah, so
That's your department, isn't that for sure?
We know where we live, don't worry.
yeah, you can thanks me. Some brain still working. Yeah,
Well, 15% around.
yeah. It works beautifully, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's about 300 in tax, yeah?
yeah, of that 15%. Yeah, over time. Yeah, over time. Yeah. So
Can have the carry forward losses for.
Well, whoever uses that 2 mil, is that 300?
well, it gets better. It gets better. Next one. We do TPD one, right? So there are 2 or 3 folds in this one. Remember, we are also looking for the tax-free uplift as well. So again, for the 5th birthday, always watch out for birthday. Again, TPD, 150 balance, insurance 2.5. I'll make it easy this time, 20 eligible service period and 20 to 65. Remember, we're going to pay out TPD lump sum to get the uplift, right? And hence we roll to level as you would. So firstly, doing all the numbers, again, based on exactly the same formula to work out what the tax-free uplift is. We are getting a 50% tax-free uplift because we're 2020 on either side of it. And the tax-free taxable component, whatever you pull out, will always be 50% tax-free. So on the basis that we do require in the first year, it could be because of medical, because it's TPD, we got to pull out 300,000. And because we are under age 60, we still have 50% taxable, right? 150,000. And we're going to deal with that in a while. But at the same time, we will have a rebate of 15%. Okay, so the remaining 750 will live in the SMSF, earning say 5%. We got 37,500. Now, if you look at scenario 2B, we at the same time we're going to do the losses on exactly the same formula on 1.9 because we paid out 1.9. So we can't do that formula on the whole amount. So we only do it on the TPD payout 1.9. So we've got 950,000 losses there. So when we look at scenario 2C, how we use that, we're going to firstly work out because she received 150,000, which is taxable to her. I worked out the 18,200 and all the way through. There's 36,000 in tax to pay, right? On a normal individual tax rates. So against that is a 15% rebate. That's still 22.5, but we still have tax of 14,000. So what I've done there is then to say, okay, how much CC do I need to get rid of the tax of 14,338? Okay, so assuming that we are able to use any carry forward CC, right, based on last year, I booked up to be 44,000 that I do need to make a contributions into super, and then wipes off the 14,000, and at the same time the 44,000 eats up the losses as it comes in. Right, so you can see that I wipe up all the taxes, at least for the first year, and that's overlaying the TPD and losses.
Yeah,
that we need together.
it's good time. I think I would doing this at the moment.
Yeah, so I mean
It's a good sort of add-on to the.
add on to that one. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Supporting the losses,
What means the wife's.
but with an overlay.
What does the accountant need to do, Keith? Like, do they need to say it? Like, they've just got to be aware not to claim.
Put a
They don't need to say anything like to the tax office or anything
No.
that they're.
minutes and all that. Yeah. So when you get knock on the door, then you say, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, just say by elect by, whatever section there. And, we want to show them a claim, right? And make sure that accountants do not claim, right? So, yeah.
So open up an SMSF for all of your clients under
Yeah.
65 and
Yeah.
have TD in there. That's what I'm hearing, Caroline.
Takes working papers.
In fact, an SMSF that houses an insurance policy,
Yeah.
that's really, contribute to that, but yeah, SMSF with that.
Well, the SMSF with the wrap platform of Netwell.
Yeah, we can have that. So, too, yeah.
You got
Let's get anything over.
the Zurich insurance in there and the.
Pete, on the slightly different question, on the carry forward CCS thing, I saw something that the ATO is looking at
People withdrawing.
withdrawing, so they're at 510.
Yep.
Pre 30 June and then withdrawing 30 to get under the, have you seen any of that from Netwell? Sound like any queries? I haven't done it, but I just saw something, a comment that.
I'm just not sure what they can query on.
Yeah.
Yes.
They can query as much as they.
I think it's more the, no, I think it's the ones that had total super balance well over and then they were like withdrawing a substantial amount. That's what I
You haven't
got
seen anything
told from.
in regards to like
There's nothing.
people taking money out pre 30 June.
We've done that for a couple of times.
Yeah.
People do it, so.
Only the AT, or
Yeah.
we
But
have a
it's like the
session
TTR,
that it
right?
was.
Like technically you can restart a TTR every day. But it's not in the spirit of
I
the.
think it's hard for them to just to do, to say the part 4A, right? It's hard because it's GDR, right? So I'll pull money out. Like Calvin's mentioned, let's pull money out. Yeah. So
Yeah. So okay. I can't remember where I saw it.
Yeah, I think it was this like thing, it was when MLC guy said like, oh, like as an example, if you had 800,000 total super balance.
Yep.
And then you took 300, 400 out
And say you sold.
and then sold a house or
And you
something and then
you've been
you had to work for a while. Yeah. And then you like, So that he said that they're looking at the big changes in total super balance and then recontributing and ending up with a higher amount again. So,
with that realized with recontribution strategy.
yeah.
Really, recontribution. I just did that to show. So they are the ones that say they're okay with recontribution.
Well,
This
you don't
one
need
is
that.
really-
Feels like 5 years old.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Might need to wind up, Kate.
We're going to number 3.
Over.
It wouldn't be a people that should have business.
All right, quickly. Okay. All right, we make peace with the kids, right? And we try to equalize as much as we can. But I do tell clients it doesn't need to be equal, right? I think clients always say, oh, we got to do equal 50-50 or, 1/3 each, but it doesn't have to be, right? And it is wishes on the if they want to, then obviously they need to make peace and we want to make sure there's reducing the risk of challenge and all stuff as well too. And obviously they need to consider who wants what and try to equalize with cash or life insurance policies, whatever, right? So I think it's useful to discuss with the clients on that one there. And this is an interesting case, which really what happens if it's not equal and no one's happy. And if you guys you love roast ducks, right? Yeah. If you like roast ducks, then you would absolutely love roast goose, right? And if you love roast goose, then Hong Kong is the way you're gonna fly there just for roast goose, right? And this place called IFP, and it's still around as well too, after all that. And it was one which was started, back in the 60s. And good old dad started up, and it was actually in the Fortune magazine top 15 restaurant. Chinese one to be only Chinese Asian restaurant to be in there at that point in time. And then he died, leaving it to the 2 sons. One of the sons ran the restaurant, but they were not doing it well and being paying themselves a lot of salaries. So the other one's obviously not happy about it and said, look, if you want to do this, you want to hold it, right? And they couldn't negotiate on the price in the end, because it went on for a few years, right? And in the end, it couldn't be, agreed upon. And the court say, that's it, just this, no one gets anything, like, it's just a total loss there. And I suppose the rationale of this story here is to say, look, you've got to make sure at least it's fair and at least something there to be shared, right? So, and of course, we could always use insurance there, but it's a huge amount. We may not get a cover for that amount to do that, but where we can on a small scale, then that would be a good way to do that too. And I think it's critical that we do that. Yeah. Just to make sure that everyone is sort of happy. A couple of bad ideas. Bad dying intestate is not always a good one, right? So make sure that they do organize themselves, will, because you know all sorts of time that costs that if we don't have the will put in place. So bad idea, someone dies intestate. And the last one is really a very bad idea. SMSF is great, right? And we're pushing it the last couple of slides. But one thing I say, don't die or don't divorce with the self-managed. It's just not born to sort of cater for those, right? And that's because most of the cases you can see with super, a lot of them are in relation to self-managed. Even if a binding nomination, we have a case here where we question the validity of it. Took 3 years, right, fighting amongst themselves and confirmed to be binding, right? Whereas with the platform, with Netwell, at least the trustees would pick up the costs, right? Nothing affects the members there. So all the cases, you can see, and especially with blended family, mixed marriages, it just gets so confusing and really it puts everything up. Good thing is discretion, but discretion can be bad, right? When this sort of situation applies so too. So if everything goes well, it's fine, but it's just towards the end. A divorce case where we had the other trustees, the other spouse didn't want to sign it, how are you going to wind it up and that sort of stuff, right? So if you can't get them to sign, you might have to go to court and, court to sanction it to wind it up, right? So it's not good. So it's bad. Bad idea is, they'll get all for start, and definitely not all and die.
Especially with illegal deaths that's in there.
So with that, I think we're right at the end. Because of my name, it's only Nigel.
Those online, thank you so much for today. Please, if you've got Pete's email, wish him well for whatever he is doing in the future.
The next
chapter.
Right.
Please do your feedback forms. The links have been emailed to you. That would be great. And thank you so much to Ray and to Zurich for letting us use your facilities today.
Anytime.
It's been amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks all.
Usual thing.